Hello and welcome to Big Picture. I am Vishal Dahiya and today we will talk about how to protect the home buyers. Now, the Supreme Court on Tuesday asked the centre government to come out with a uniform proposal for all cases to resolve the difficulties being faced by lakhs of home buyers who have not yet got possession of their flats despite paying huge amounts of money to the builders. The Apex Court said this while hearing a home buyers matter related to JP Infratech Limited. Meanwhile, responding to a batch of more than 140 petitions filed by different real estate developers challenging the constitutional validity of the amendment in IBC, the centre government has informed the Apex Court that the law was amended to protect the interest of home buyers who had invested their hard-earned money to purchase flats but were cheated by the real estate corporates. For more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of guests on the show. Let me start by introducing them to you, beginning with Mr. P.K. Malhotra, former Secretary of Ministry of Law and Justice. We also have with us Mr. K. Badrinath, senior journalist. We have with us Mr. Piyush Singh. He is the advocate in Supreme Court and quite well versed with these matters. We are also joined by Brigadier R.R. Singh. He is the Director General of National Real Estate Development Council. Welcome all of you gentlemen to Rajya Sabha TV studios. Let me begin by, taking a holistic view of the situation. Let me begin with you, Mr. Malhotra. There is an RERA Act which was enacted by the central government. Then the IBC was amended to go ahead and bring, the individual home buyers under the ambit as well. That's what the central government has told the Apex Court as well in response to those petitions. What else are we talking about here when we say that there has to be a uniform, proposal? What is the Apex Court referring to, or what more can be done?
Talking of the home buyers, I think buying home is one of the essential ingredient of every person, every Indian in our country. And for buying a good home for his family, he invests his lifetime earning for buying a house. But unfortunately, the situation in our country has been that the home buyers always have been at the receiving end. It is the builder and the developer who have always been controlling the business. To overcome this situation from time to time, the law has been made. Earlier, we came out with a general law, that is the Consumer Protection Act, under which cases were filed and the home buyer's interest was tried to be protected. Since the Consumer Protection Act failed to protect the interest of the home buyer the way it was expected, the Parliament came out with a specific legislation, that is the Real Estate Regulatory Authority, by which the Real Estate Regulatory Authority was constituted.
The RERA Act.
RERA Act, popularly known as RERA Act, and under the RERA Act, the home buyer's interest was protected, that there were certain obligations put on the developer as to how the money which he has collected will be used and how the project is to be carried out. And in case there are one-sided conditions in the contract, probably the buyers can approach the court and say that their rights are being infringed, and the courts will come to their rescue. And there are a number of judgments in which the courts have come to their rescue. Unfortunately, the present problem has arisen. Why this issue has become important is when this IBC, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, was enacted, probably it was not with reference to the home buyers as such. But what happened in the implementation of this act, directly or indirectly, the home buyers' interest also got affected. And I'll explain it how.
Okay.
Because what happens, suppose the builder, the developer and the financier, either for genuine reason or for manipulated reasons, join hands and they siphon up the money, or the company goes into the insolvency. The fact remains the home buyer's money is also invested in the project. What happens to his money? The IBC has not taken care of that, and that was the root cause of all this problem, for which the home buyers approached the Supreme Court directly, saying that Article 21 of the Constitution is violated and their right needed to be protected.
And that is why the amendment was brought.
That is why the Supreme Court took cognizance of it, government also took cognizance of it, and in the IBC, the amendment was brought whereby the home buyers were put in the definition of that the money whatever they have given, it will be a financial debt. But unfortunately, that itself will not solve the problem, because in the committee of creditor, where most of the creditor are the financiers, therefore, if there are a number of flat buyers are there, they are 30,000, 40,000. Even if one representative is there in the committee of creditor, probably he will not be in a position to protect the interest of the all flat buyer. Therefore, this direction has come from the Supreme Court saying that we are not the financial experts. Government has got all the wherewithal available with it. Why don't government come out with a solution as to how best the home buyer's interest can be protected?
Okay.
And I think that's a very good direction given by the Supreme Court. Probably government should work on this and should come out with some solution whereby in case even the provision under the insolvency and bankruptcy code also need to be amended. I think some suggestion should come from the government. Either the law should be amended, or if the law is not amended, suggestion is given to the Supreme Court, then probably Supreme Court can give a direction under Article 142 to be complied with till a law is made in this regard.
Okay, that's quite a concise summary and apt as well on what the situation is right now and how we have arrived here. But Piyush, I'd like to bring you in here in terms of the legal obstacle as well and the legal hurdles. And if you look at from the home buyer's perspective, as Mr. Malhotra also pointed out, it's one person's hard-earned money which he or she has earned throughout her life.
Correct.
And then has invested, or some time taken, or most of the times taken a loan from the bank as well, paying interest, and that home buyer is in a very precarious situation then.
Right. Vishal, not only paying the home loan EMIs but also paying the rent. So a person who has bought a flat has waited for 5-6 years. The possession is delayed by 3 years because as per most of the builder buyer agreement, the possession was promised in 3 years or 4 years on a higher end. Most of these projects we are talking about, as per a recent survey, there are at least 14 lakh units or 14 lakh flats which are delayed in Delhi NCR alone. And the number can be much huge when we take the number in the country and all the metro cities. Now, the project is delayed, the EMIs they are paying, the home rent they are paying, and again with no hope or little hope of getting the flat in time. Now also we realize the fact that we are all these structures which are ready or are about to be ready, or there is no construction work happening for these developers of which we are talking about. All these structures, this have become a concrete jungle. So the problem is all this construction, if no construction is happening, there is a deterioration which is happening of all the structures which are ready, but no work is being happening right now. Now the present case we are talking about of the insolvency matter where the Supreme Court has asked the central government to intervene has been because of the provision in law that insolvency proceedings will need to have a resolution plan within a period of 180 days plus a period of 90 days. So a maximum period of 270 days for this particular company, real estate company. And this company alone is affecting 35,000 home buyers. Now when we say 37,000 home buyers, these are 35,000 families getting affected because of the delay in the project and the company going into liquidation. Now possibly I would say that what kind of provisions the government can come up with is like for instance a city like Noida, where I would say a large part of this mess is most of the properties or most of the land which was allotted by the authority. Now this was not a land like any other place where a builder does a collaboration with a landowner, or builder first buys the land and then starts constructing. In Noida, most of the projects were started when the land was given by the Noida authority only after giving 10% of the amount. The authority floated a scheme that you only deposit 10% of the amount with us and the rest 90% given in 1 year installment each for the rest 9 years. Now most of the builders, they paid the first installment or the second installment and then they defaulted with the rest of the installment. During that period of first and second installment, they collected majority amount of money from the home buyers, I would say for 50 to 60%, and kept on defaulting it. Now the present state is that the project, I would say the structure is complete, 95% of amount from a home buyer is collected. It has been, as Mr. Malhotra has rightly pointed out, it has been to a large extent siphoned off. Because if you go by simple calculation, if the builder has not paid it to the government for acquiring a land, if he has not utilized that money for constructing a project, where has this money gone?
Okay.
Because if, for example, X number of home buyers have paid 95% of the consideration and only 50% of the construction is done for the last 6 years, then where has the money gone? It has been definitely been misappropriated or diverted.
Okay.
So this is a huge problem. Now again, with the authorities, they are running a compound interest with penalty against the builder. Now all those companies are now at the brink of insolvency or are before the insolvency courts again. Like the second part of the litigation which you mentioned, those 150 builders have approached the Supreme Court now. So now the mess of course was initiated by the builders, but of course all that mess can be curtailed by the government intervention. Like I give an example of Noida authorities. So the authority can raise that due, because most of the builders are saying we will not get the occupation certificate until and unless those dues of the authorities are paid.
Okay.
So in case the authority can say, all right, our dues can be clear in the 5 years, and at least the occupation certificate to the builder can be given and registry can be done. So that will give any incentive to any new company to come in or that particular builder to complete the project.
Okay, so basically providing incentives, to those companies who can step in and finish this work. That's one aspect of it. But Mr. Badrinath, if you look at it from the overall perspective, the holistic perspective as well, the way Mr. Malhotra explained and Mr. Piyush also explained, from the government's point of view, there are laws which have been made, and even NBCC in one case was roped in. The Noida authority, which Piyush mentioned, was also asked to pitch in, but the Noida authority said that we are not the experts, we do not have the expertise. What all can be done now?
See, two things can be done. One is that in any IBC case, the first charge of whatever money that can be salvaged from an IBC proceeding is that of the employees, and the second is that of the bankers. The third is that of the sundry debtors, suppliers and things like that. And so what we can perhaps do is, some way the Supreme Court can give a directive, as you are saying under section 142 or 146, that look, they may be treated on par with or even ahead of the employees, or on par with the employees, home buyers, and their full settlement must be prerequisite to any of the solution that can be done under the IBC. There is no way that the promoters can be given any relief in most of the cases, because they are all fraudulent practices that have been perpetuated with an intent to defraud the home buyers. Most of the cases, I am not saying not everything, but this should be the prerequisite to settle an IBC case. Perhaps if required, we can go back to the Parliament saying that, okay, put in one more provision saying that, look, this is the what can be done, and this should be the first charge on the funds should be that of the home buyers, along with the employees of the real estate companies, which also need to be given a lot of relief because of the fraudulent practices that are prevalent across. It's not one case or two cases.
Okay.
So that is one thing that can be done.
Okay.
A second issue that can be done perhaps is that the banks anyway have to take the haircut in terms of any resolution that is there, because the IBC proceedings are on. So can the bankers and home buyers come to a agreement vis-a-vis the builders is an issue that should be explored.
Okay.
That could be one another way of doing it.
Okay, so these two aspects can be explored. We also have with us Brigadier R.R. Singh, the Director General of National Real Estate Development Council. Brigadier Singh, if you look at the entire issue, it looks way too complicated. There are too many partners involved here in terms of both the company which has defrauded the investors, and in case of home buyers as well, the number itself, the sheer number is very high, 35,000 in the in the recent case of JP Infratech and several others as well. So what all, according to you, can be done in addition to what the laws and the acts say presently?
I think as far as the real estate regulatory bill, RERA we call it, and IBC, these two things came up only in 16-17. So this will take care of the upcoming projects, new projects which are being launched now. What we are talking about is the projects which were much before that, launched in 2016 and before. So those projects, there were no proper supervision, there was no proper act to supervise what builder is doing, how the construction is taking place, where the money is going. So all these problems were, there was not proper regulation of real estate at that time. And buyers were taken for a ride because of these reasons. Now with RERA and IBC coming, probably the future is secured to a large extent.
Okay.
Now the question is that how we solve the problem which was created before 2016. I think you may hang the developer, that is possible, but are we going to complete the project just by hanging the developer? I don't think that we can do that. So, in my opinion, the solution lies that how you can complete the ongoing projects. And for that, I think, in my opinion, that some fund has to be created because developer does not have money. As a result, there's no construction taking place anywhere in the country as far as the old projects are concerned. So the bankers and the government have to sit together, and of course developers decide that what are the projects which can be completed by easily pulling in some resources. Developers have some resources, they have in the form of some assets, some land, etc., which can be disposed of, or some money can be collected.
Okay.
Banks can take haircut, give some more loan to the developer, and third party, which is the government, can put in the resources, that is some funds from their own resources, and make a pool and complete these projects and get the returns and feel all the whatever has been done, that things can be taken care of.
Okay.
But at this stage, I think this is the solution, that we create some sort of a fund to complete these projects and get the projects completed and hand over to the buyers.
Okay.
So this is, in my view, is most important.
Okay.
Seeing the situation which is there at the moment on the ground.
Okay. Mr. Malhotra, that's definitely one aspect, when a pool of funds can be made available, because what Brigadier Singh is saying is quite a practical situation, because the developer doesn't have the fund. That's why the developer's company is in the insolvency board in front of that, and funds are required to complete the project as well. That is one thing. But is that the only feasible way to go ahead and resolve this matter? Because there are several projects, and since these laws came in only in 2016, some more skeletons might tumble out of the cupboard later on as well.
I think Brigadier R. Singh has raised some very valid point, and there is another angle to it from which we can look into. Of course, the funds need to be infused, because right now the builders don't have the money, and ultimately who is the sufferer? Sufferer are the flats buyer, and ultimately we are looking for how the interest of the flat buyer can be protected. I think one of the reason why is now probably most of the time, because this issue has arisen out of IBC cases. So we are confining our discussion only that you tweak with the IBC law and probably the solution will be there. IBC deals only with the cases where insolvency process has begun.
Yeah.
There may be projects, there are projects
That's
where
what
insolvency is not involved.
And we might get to know
and
much later.
we have to look at the whole sector, not necessarily the cases where IBC is involved. So definitely IBC law, in case it need to be changed, and probably to give same right as are available to the financial creditor, to the home buyers also, probably their status need to be upgraded, so that in case of insolvency their rights, their money is protected. But let me clarify it here, that it is not necessary that even if their interest is protected, they will get their full money back, because if the insolvency process starts, maybe the whatever is left over, that will be distributed among the secured creditors.
Okay.
So the man may not get his full money. Now I divide this particular thing into two areas. Number one, the ongoing projects where the problem is there, and the fresh projects. If you are talking of the fresh projects, we have the Real Estate Regulatory Authority. Probably I think all the state this Real Estate Regulatory Authority, they should come out with a suggestion as to how the new projects are to be dealt with, so that there is no default on the part of the developers and the builders, and they have the right to do under that RERA Act.
Yeah.
Second is with regard to the projects which are already stuck up, where the money is stuck up. Probably I think the Supreme Court is more concerned about that. Until a solution is found out in the law, my personal view is probably what can be done is, maybe you appoint a kind of monitoring committee under the direction of the Supreme Court, which has a representative from the developer, representative from the financial creditor, representative from the flat buyers, and that committee should be given an authority as to how the project should be processed further.
Okay.
And there is a possibility, once you are bringing a new person to carry out that project or to complete that project, obviously he will be coming out with certain new demands, and this monitoring committee can consider those demands, and those demands can be put up before the financial creditors. And as one of the panelists has also said, that those financial creditors, to save money and to save the project, can take care of it, and they can infuse some more money. And probably this, in fact, when this last government took over in 2014, with regard to the national highway projects which were struck up, I think the Ministry of Road Transport itself took up that project, and many of the conditions of the contract were changed to see that the projects are carried out and the national highways are completed.
Okay, so that is something which can be done. Yes, Mr. Badrinath.
The fund that NARDECO is representative is talking about, who will put in the money? See, the promoters are very rich in this country. Most of the companies are bankrupt. So why not haul up the promoters? How can you just ask banks or the government to put in money? It's totally, it's meaningless.
Okay.
See, for example, if I am the promoter of the company, I manipulate, I divert the money, then I ask you as government or banker to put in the money. This is unacceptable, actually. In fact, the promoters of the companies who have eaten away the money should be hauled up first. Let their assets be seized. Then let those assets be put up for bidding. Let them make sacrifices. If the banks are asked to make sacrifices, why can't the promoters make sacrifices?
Well, you're right. That's one part of the process, Mr. Badrinath. But then the moot question here is that that process will take a bit longer, much longer time. And as Piyush was also pointing out, there are structures which are standing out there, which are deteriorating. Those are concrete structures. The home buyers are paying interest on the EMIs and rents as well. So how do we resolve the problem of the home buyers there?
Are the promoters who have eaten away the money trying to blackmail the system by trying to say that home buyers have not been given, so let the government come up with the taxpayers' money into the system? Or are we asking banks who have already lost so much of money and have huge exposure of more than 4.5 lakh crores on the real estate sector should come up with more money? Let the industry come up with money. Why should the taxpayers' money be put into it?
Let the industry chip in. Yes, Piyush.
Vishal, when I said that the structure is deteriorating, but I would mention that I would absolutely agree with Mr. Badrinath's stance that the fund created for the distress fund we are talking about, why put the taxpayers' money into it? Where would that money come from? Or why should bank take a haircut? We are all cognizant of the fact that banks do not have their own money. It's the money of all the people. It's people's money. It's the depositors' money. It's the taxpayers' money. So why do we need to create this fund? For the first step should be, ideally, as Mr. Badrinath has pointed out, either go after the promoters or in most of these projects, if the government intervention happens. Now, when we talk about policies or when we say RERA has been there or when we say the IBC has come into picture, how many projects? There is already a provision in RERA that a project which is not completed, RERA can take over a project and have it completed. Once Noida RERA, the UP RERA which is there in Noida has tried to do it very unsuccessfully. They have not been able to do it in the provision of law. Why the government intervention has not happened? Creating a distress fund would be incentivizing fraud. That we say, all right, you have siphoned off fund, all right, do not worry, buyers and the government are going to put in more money and will give you another opportunity to another company to come in and again.
So what happens then quickly, because the banks should not take a haircut because it's the taxpayers' money. We're talking about the home buyers as well here. These are maybe middle class, upper middle class people who are around thousands in numbers. So individually they can also not be asked to go ahead and take a haircut.
Yes, Mr. R.R. Singh mentioned that we should not hang the builder. I would agree we shouldn't hang the builder, but I'm suggesting there are two instances we are all aware of. I would not want to name it. Supreme Court has put those builders in custody and have been able to recover substantial amount. When I say substantial, 500 crores, then the next tranche was 700 crores, 800 crores, because they were not willing to sell off their assets. When I say asset, not their house. We're talking about all those inventory land banks and the inventories they have created, which they can very well sell. But now since the market is down, for example, a land which is worth 1,000 crores, they don't want to sell at 700 crores because they don't want that 300 haircut for themselves. So that can be done. We do not want the builders to be hanged. But the problem is if coercive step can be taken, but why we expect always the Supreme Court to come in? Why do we expect the Supreme Court is already supervising 3 projects, Amrapali, JP and for that matter Unitech, 3 of the biggest builders they're handling. Why don't we expect the respective state governments and the central government to step in now? in wherever the areas of the mess in.
Okay,
right?
clearly. But that's right, Piyush. And in fact, that's what the apex court has also said, asking the central government to come up with a uniform policy to deal with this situation. And as our panelists are also pointing out, maybe a bit of a more coercive method as far as those developers are concerned who have done the fraud, who have defrauded the investors. Maybe one of the major steps, although there are laws in place as of now. Let's wait and watch as to what uniform policy or what the suggestion of the government will be on this, clearly with an intention to go ahead and protect the home buyers' interest. We'll come back again tomorrow with a different topic and different set of guests. Till then, keep watching Rajya Sabha Television.